Getting our friends together isn't as easy as it used to be. We get it. Life comes at you fast. But trust us, your pals are desperate for a good hang. And when they hear you stock the party with drinks from Drizzly, they'll be banging down your door. Let Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery, take care of the supplies. All you need is an excuse. It doesn't even have to be a good one. It's your dog's birthday. The loquats are finally ripe. Whatever. With Drizzly, you can compare prices on a massive selection of beer, wine, and spirits and get them delivered straight to your door, which means you can entice the crew to leave their houses without ever leaving yours. Whatever the occasion, download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com. Today. Must be 21 plus. Not available in all locations. Man, I wish they had Drizzly when I used to play D&D and Riffs. Maybe it's time for me to start again. Thanks, Drizzly.
Hey, it's my song. Let's sing it. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Come on, it's gonna be freaking awesome. You know the words. It's gonna be freaking awesome. That's it. Sing. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Yeah! Hey! 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 It's my favorite part! Isn't it heavy? I'll play that! Coolest alive! Ready, set, go!
Yo, what's up, everybody? This is Jesse Blaze Snider, the coolest geek alive. Thank you for listening. I'm coming to you from Orange County, California. It's bright and it's sunny here, and I'm feeling good. How you feeling? Well, if you're out there and you could be feeling any better right now, I'm sending you all my love, because us geeks have to stick together. Care Bear Stare! You feel that? Anyway, today is a very special day for me because it's our first episode, and I wrote a speech. Yeah, I know. Maybe that's a little lame, but I just felt like I had so much to say, and I wanted to make sure I got it all out of me. So future episodes, I'll largely just be working off of some general bullet points and notes, but for today's cast, as a special thing, I decided to write a speech. A State of the Nerd Union address, if you will. Or I mean, you can look at it as a script. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Anyway, there's a couple parts of this speech. I'm going to deliver it as naturally as possible, and I'll be interrupting myself whenever I want to add or clarify anything. But the first part is called The Art of Adaptation. And without further ado, let's do it. Today we are here to discuss the art of adaptation and the keys to doing it correctly. That's right, I said correctly. There is a definitive right way to adapt something from one entertainment media to another, and any other way is quite simply wrong. As a professional comic book writer and the self-proclaimed coolest geek alive, I know what I'm talking about. So, what is this correct way to adapt a pre-existing piece of nerd mythology? Love and understanding. Love and understanding is the only right way. Specifically, love of and understanding of the original source material. That's the only way to do it. Well, actually, that's a lie. There are many other ways to do it. But with love and understanding of the original source material, that's the only way to do it right. And if you can't do it with love, there is a second best way that it can sometimes be done, with respect. Meaning if you personally can't figure out why we all love The Lord of the Rings, but you do set out to take fans at their word, trying to understand the thing the way the educated fan already does, and attempt to bring to life the parts of it that seem to be most driving the love that the fandom is experiencing, well, if you do this, you may be able to squeak by with a win on respect alone. But truly, the one right answer is love. Always and only love. Because it's not really all that hard to educate oneself. Now, when I say educated fan, I mean those fans who have read or watched the original source material. Not superficial fans who may like the way Spider-Man looks or own a Punisher t-shirt, but isn't willing to put in the time to seek out the original beloved source material and familiarize themselves with it. Educated fans are the ones who went back to the beginning of it all and have educated themselves as to play catch-up with the fans who have been there from the beginning. It is these educated fans and the ones there from the start, and them alone, who should be assigned to adapt the whole of geek culture into other media. No one else. Period. If you want to add to the geek culture legacy of a prominent fictional mythology, you need to learn how to love it yourself. And not the easy way, i.e., watching the adaptations that already have been brought into existence. Case in point, watching Batman the Animated Series, though amazing and classic, is not enough studying if you want to adapt Batman. It's not even close. There are so many classic chapters in the Batman mythos. But if you want to truly know why they are as great as they are, then you will have an awful lot of reading to do. And honestly, I'd recommend that reading to anyone. It's some of the best reading of my life, personally. No one would regret reading the greatest Batman stories of all time. I promise you. There's a reason they have stood the test of time. There's a reason why people like us obsess over them. They are truly memorable. Which is why, if you're hired to work on something Batman-related, as a fan, we remember what happened in these books. And we're going to know how much you have studied by the quality of the work you've made. So don't bitch at us when it's clear you didn't do your Batman homework. Now, there are so many in Hollywood who are so quick to demonize entire fandoms because they've simply been called out on their bullshit lack of understanding the property they're working on. And you know the real reason why they do this? Because they're otherwise defenseless. We're right. They're wrong. They don't know what they're talking about, and we do. They think that this isn't fair. They're supposed to be the ones who know about how to make our entertainment. But not in this case. We know better. Not in the face of the fandom. So they come up with a quick excuse to distract mainstream non-fans who don't know any better from ever finding out that the real problem fans have with them is that they don't actually love and understand the thing we are all truly fans of. Watching Peter Jackson's The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings is not the same as reading the books. It's just not. Really, nothing else counts. Only reading the books counts. You could say, I'm a fan of those films. That's true. That's okay. So am I. It's more than okay. You're welcome in that role as a fan of the films. But you should not be put in charge of anything relating to these properties because you watched a handful of movies. And I put myself in this pool. I read and I loved the Hobbit book, but I never made it all the way through The Lord of the Rings. Truth be told, I meant to, but I bought a big, heavy book that collected all 3 novels together and weighed so much, I never brought it with me anywhere, and I never actually finished the series. Now, unless I'm willing to go back and do so, no one should hire me to adapt the novels to any media. Period. I'm not currently qualified. Of course, I am someone who would gleefully dive into the series and catch myself up as to be made ready to write some Lord of the Rings opus. But that is even besides the point, because I'd be taking that job from someone who loved it enough to read it without encouragement, who has probably imagined it being brought to life for many years now. That fan, he should have that job. Similarly, I love the Harry Potter films, some more than others, but I've never actually read any of the books. I would not take a job writing or creating Harry Potter comic books or anything else until I fixed that deficiency. I believe that fans deserve creators who are willing to come down to their level and geek out by their sides. And the only way that I know how to do this is by learning what the fans have learned the same way that we learned it. Reading the goddamn books. Now, to be clear, when I say only reading the books count, by that I mean whatever the original source material may be. For Star Wars, it's going to be the original 3 films, but of course, there's a lot more that true fans of Star Wars would point to from other media that is important as well, like novels and comic books that are classic and beloved. For Star Trek, it's the original series, films, and ultimately everything that was produced by one of my personal idols, Gene Roddenberry, while he was alive. For games, it's playing the games. You didn't play the game? What the hell do you know about it then? You're really going to create a film or TV series from secondhand accounts of what the game is like? How difficult is it to go out and play a damn video game? Ugh. If you have been hired to adapt anything based on anything that has an established fan following, you either familiarize yourself with the original source material or you're doing it wrong. Period. And for those of you hearing this going, Jesse, of course they're reading the books and playing the games. This is absurd. I'm here to tell you, you're right. It is absurd. And no, they ain't. What up, guys? Jesse Blaze Snider here. And whether your resolution is to save money, eat better, or stress less, HelloFresh is here to help you do all three. Say hello to your most delicious year yet with fresh ingredients and chef-crafted recipes at a price point you'll like. Delivered right to your door. So you've resolved to actually sit down and eat dinner around the table like me. But what do you do about those nights when your schedule's packed, like mine always is? Turn to HelloFresh's lineup of quick and easy meals, including their 15-minute recipes designed to help minimize mealtime stress. It's really awesome, actually. My brother, Shane, he was doing Twitch, and he had a sponsorship from HelloFresh. So me and my girlfriend at the time, we got a bunch of HelloFresh meals, and we ended up doing it for a few months because it was just awesome. It was super convenient. The biggest thing about it that I liked was that I didn't feel like I was wasting food all the time because everything was cut into portions exactly what you needed for the meals. And the meals were delicious. You know, my girl was making them mostly, and I mean, they were really great and usually pretty easy to get done, like fast and stuff. I really highly recommend HelloFresh. It's quite a cool experience to just have that food show up to your door. Here's the directions. Here's everything pre-cut. And, you know, you're just cleaning up the dishes to get it done. So go to HelloFresh.com/CoolGeekFree and use code CoolGeekFree for free breakfast for life. I'm so excited to offer that to you. One breakfast item per box while subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com/CoolGeekFree with code CoolGeekFree. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. Now, despite my frustrated tone here, I am thrilled to be recording this today. I'm kicking off what I hope will be an ongoing conversation for years to come, where I pledge to elegantly defend the fans of original source material until I'm blue in the face, and to intellectually destroy anyone who would write those true fans off. True fans, I said it. I'm gatekeeping. I'm a gatekeeper. You don't hire a teacher who can't read. So yes, if you have not read, played, or seen the source material, you must stay on the other side of the God-forsaken gate. I'm sorry. I don't understand how we've let any of these fake fan, ignorant idiots convince us that we are the ones being jerks by attempting to safeguard the things we love from people who clearly have no love for the original source, no understanding of why we do love them, and no respect for those of us who truly care about them. If you have no respect for the lore, then I have no respect for you. Or your meaningless opinions, because that's what they are. Meaningless. I mean, really, what is the opinion of a person completely ignorant to a situation worth? Do you also want the opinion of a film from the mouth of someone who has only seen a trailer for it? You want to ask a fish about the sky and a bird about the ocean depths? Of course not. And yet Hollywood and social media culture have been trying to take approval power from those who created the fandom in the first place and give it to superficial cultural influencers who are showing up late to the party, not having done any of the required reading. We're supposed to listen to the opinions of people who didn't do their homework and have been copying off of our tests because they cannot be bothered to study? Why not hire someone who did the homework? How tough is that? Is it really too much to ask? It's not hard. You want to be a part of the Star Trek fandom? Great. Go watch Star Trek. Not today's Star Trek. Watch the show that started it all. And if you can't be bothered to do that, at least watch its spiritual successor, Star Trek The Next Generation. These shows are the reason there is a fandom in the first place. These are the shows you must be familiar with to join in with the fans. If you don't want to join in with the fans, then don't. But do not shout down true fans on the internet with your undereducated remarks. And certainly, if you're an entertainment professional, do not take these geek culture jobs when they come around simply because they're high profile. There are creators out there who are infinitely more qualified. And not only do they deserve the jobs more than you, the fandom deserves for them to have the jobs more than we deserve for you to have them. Somebody who doesn't fucking know what they're talking about. Now, you are welcome to enjoy the latest Bad Robot produced Star Trek program. And that's great if you do. But the moment you are attempting to participate in the creation of new Star Trek as a professional, you must go back to the sacred lore and study it, or you are doomed to failure. Because if you do not know why the fandom created itself in the first place, by enjoying it the same way they did, you will never be able to fully intellectually satisfy those fans, and will always leave them wanting. Even, and I mean this truly, even if you are the most talented creator on the planet, it doesn't matter, because you haven't been a part of the conversation that the fans have been having for years. So what you have to say is of no relevance. Study. Study the source material, or diminish the potency of your brand and fast-track the company you work for into going broke. You decide. I honestly wish I didn't care, but I do. And someone has to. Let's face it, the only reason we're living today in the nerd renaissance that we live in is because fans like you and I lifted up greatness in the past. Because fans like you and I championed writers. Because we championed artists. Because we championed great books, great TV, and great films. There is no Lord of the Rings without the fandom that surrounds it. There is no Star Trek. There's no Star Wars. There's no Harry Potter. There's no GOT. There's no D&D. There's no MCU. Without the fans, there's nothing. Nothing. It was our collective discerning recommendations that all of those things were worthwhile that led to their profitable propagation in the first place. And what do fans get for our efforts? Hollywood has stopped listening to us. During a recent interview on The Town with Matt Baloney podcast, a producer for Marvel Studios was quoted as saying, "I don't want you to already have a pre-existing idea of what it is, because you grew up with issue 15 and that's what you want to recreate." Oh my fucking God. He's talking about purposefully not hiring people with an awareness and existing love for their source material. They're actively insulting those of us who helped them build this empire, as if it were their idea all along and they had no help getting it there. Forgive me, but who the fuck does this asshat at Marvel think he is? Is this legit what Kevin Feige thinks? That they need people who are, and I quote again, hard on the material, who go, "What is this? I think there's a movie here, but maybe we should be looking at it in this way." Seriously? Are you really entering into the creative process of bringing to life beloved nerd culture mythology with a notion that it needs to be what? Improved upon? By you? Ha! You're fired. Or at least, you should be fired. Every last one of these Hollywood producers who think this way should lose their jobs tomorrow. Trust me, when their stockholders begin to get wise to what's truly going on that is fucking up the money printing machine that these franchises done right truly are, heads will roll. These people's days are numbered. I'm here talking about it in order to make sure of it and speed up the process. Seriously, we need to get them all out of their positions right now. I mean, are you kidding me? They know better than Stan and Jack? Are you saying that the man and the king didn't really know what they were doing? It was accidental magic, or like a fluke that people liked their creations, and for so long, they just got lucky. What? You think that your writing staff know how to write better than the combined might of Frank Miller, Chris Claremont, Mark Waid, Warren Ellis, Ed Brubaker, Garth Ennis, Peter David, Joe Kelly, Jonathan Hickman, Jason Aaron, Mark Millar, Walt Simonson, Greg Rucka, to name but a few key writers for Marvel Comics over 70-plus years of publishing. You see, you're not dissing a single creator. You're disregarding 1,000. 1,000 brilliant people who have slowly added to and built upon a creative legacy that you control, and you're throwing it out the window because you want to be the smartest person in the room. How about, instead of leveling the playing field for yourself, you do your due diligence and actually become the smartest person in the room? The person who knows and loves the properties they're working on and dedicates their efforts to creating things they know the fans will love because you yourself are a fan. Nah, can't do that. Too cool to be a fan. I get it. No, actually, I'm lying. I don't get it. There's nothing wrong with being a fan. Period. They can't even keep the artistic designs the same. I didn't hate the Eternals for what they did to Jack Kirby's story, as much as I hated it for what they did to Jack Kirby's designs. That film should have been bombastic with colors and interesting monsters, but instead, it's just kind of gray and boring. How can this be? How can a film based on a property created by Jack the King Kirby look like that movie does? I'll tell you how. Because Hollywood has its head so far up its own ass that they truly believe that their hottest designer of the moment can beat out the combined collective artistic talent of people like Dave Cockrum, John Byrne, Jim Lee, Neil Adams, Eric Larson, Rob Liefeld, Mark Silvestri, Steve Ditko, George Perez, Alex Ross, Frank Quietly, John Buscema, John Romita Sr. and Jr., Mobius, Mike Mignola, Todd McFarlane, Jim Steranko, J.H. Williams III, Alan Davis, Arthur Adams, Jason Pearson, Ed McGuinness, Dave Johnson, or any other truly great Marvel artist that I might name. And there are many, many, many more. The incredible thing about comic books in particular is that month in and month out, they're a testing ground for ideas and designs. The things that work stick around. The things that don't fall by the wayside, which is why Batman is the myth that it has become, because of the collective creativity and a revisionist history that, when done right, honors the past and distills it into its purest form. This isn't a process where we create, erase, and start again. This is a process of small, subtle change, logically based on what has come before, with ears open to the demands of your audience, or at least eyes open to the sales charts. We wouldn't still be reading Batman if it was just Bob Kane doing the creating. It's Bob and Bill Finger who created so many of the supporting characters, locations, and gadgets that we've come to love. It's Neil Adams, Dennis O'Neil, Frank Miller, and a host of others who have been framing and adjusting the Batman lore in small ways throughout the decades until we have arrived at the truly great mythology we have today. We must approach these mythologies with the same care that went into perfecting them in the first place, or we risk breaking them for the next generation. A place I fear we have currently arrived. Hollywood seems to think that their personal taste and predilections beat out the collective tastes of the fandom that made all of this possible. They do. Not only is it relatively clear to anyone truly paying attention, but as a professional TV host and voiceover actor, I can tell you from the inside, they think we're all a bunch of nerds who care too much about little things that they can't be bothered with. The fans? Yeah, what do they know? What do we know? We know why we like things. We know why some things are great and why other things suck. They think entertainment is a game of Russian roulette. Who knows what people will like tomorrow, they say. Because if no one knows, then who can you blame when things fall apart, right? I'm here to tell you, if you make a film or series failing to recreate the reasons fans have come to a fandom in the first place, you have no hope in maintaining their attention, and you are the one who is to blame. All right, take a brief break from this diatribe for some introductions. So, this being the first episode of our show, I thought it might be a good time to explain a little bit about who I am. Why is it my place to take apart Hollywood's approach to blockbuster filmmaking? Well, first and foremost, I'm a fan. I've been seriously reading comic books and fiction since I was a teenager. I have worked on and off at comic book and toy stores my entire life, and have used my employee discount to facilitate a habit that had me reading upwards of 140 monthly comic books for years, from Marvel to DC to Image and every indie in between. When I decided that one of my chosen pursuits in this life was going to be as a writer of comic books, I began a process of studying the medium that saw me reading an extra half a dozen classic graphic novels each month, tracking down every major run I could get my hands on, reading everything, like it or not, because I wanted to know what the older fans already knew. Case in point, DC's Crisis on Infinite Earths. I hated it. Still read every word of it, because it was very important to the mythology of DC. Barry Allen sacrifices himself, the original Supergirl dies, and the whole multiverse gets folded into one universe. It's not the greatest read entertainment-wise, but it was important for the time it was released for many reasons, and I wanted to share in the experience with my fellow geeks. Because I decided, if I was going to be a truly great comic book writer, I needed to understand these characters as good, if not better, than anyone else did. I needed to write from a wealth of knowledge that few other people possessed. I worked for years at this, until I felt like I had largely read everything I had ever heard anything good said about. And to this day, I take recommendations from other fans very seriously whenever I receive them, because as far as I'm concerned, that's what it means to be a fan. And actually, I might add, you can drop me a recommendation for anything awesome on Twitter at coolestgeekjbs. So now I want to talk a little bit about my fandoms, the things that I personally think are particularly awesome. Well, my first fan love was The Muppet Show. My first creative hero, Jim Henson, creator of The Muppets. I'm blessed to have written one of the Muppet fairy tale books that were published by Boom Kids a while back. The story of my script approval process for that one, I'll save for another time, but it's just one of so many examples I can give why fans can't have nice things. My next major fandom is toys. Spurned on by my love of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and any toy from the 80s sculpted by James Groman, like My Pet Monster and Mad Balls. I love toys. I was a movie buff, too, long before I worked at Blockbuster Video. But back then, I was mostly obsessed with comedies. I love great comedy. Monty Python, the Marx Brothers, anything directed by Mel Brooks. Anything that can make me laugh, I love. But once I started actually working at a movie rental store and someone handed me a list of the supposed greatest films of all time, of course, I had to start renting them all to see if that were true. I love so many of those films that I kept going, working my way down every major IMDb list I could find for years. And to this day, I see at least one movie at a movie theater every week. So I'm a bit of a movie buff or aficionado or whatever. My favorite movie is also my favorite book, The Princess Bride by William Goldman, another one of my heroes. Look him up. He's written loads of books and books on writing. He famously won 2 Oscars, one for an original screenplay and the other for his adaptation of All the President's Men with Dustin Hoffman and Robert Redford, a truly great film worth checking out. Anyway, when I had almost exhausted all the classic films and comic books I could get my hands on, I finally got into serialized television. One of my first TV loves? You guessed it, Star Trek. I'd actually grown up falling asleep to The Honeymooners and the original Star Trek, so I fell hard for The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and even Enterprise. They are still some of my favorite shows of all time. But I don't stop at science fiction. I'm a huge lover of The Wire, Deadwood, Twin Peaks, The Shield, It's Always Sunny, The League, or more recently Cobra Kai, Stranger Things, and Better Call Saul. Did I mention I love animation too? That one has been ongoing for a while, like since I was a little kid. My mom had me turned on to all things Disney, and I'm a true fan of Disney animation, Walt Disney, and Imagineering. But I've expanded far beyond just Disney films. That's right. I like Pixar too. No, seriously. I love animation. Iron Giant, Fantastic Mr. Fox, Mask of the Phantasm, Coraline, Paranorman, The Lego Movie, Into the Spider-Verse, The Secret of Nim, or more recently, Storks! Oh my God, if you haven't watched Storks, it's on Netflix. Go watch it right now. Plus, animated shows, Batman and Superman the Animated Series, Justice League Unlimited, South Park, Rick and Morty, Real Ghostbusters, Star Wars The Clone Wars, Looney Tunes, Animaniacs, X-Men, Avatar The Last Airbender, Futurama, One Punch Man, The Tick, Gargoyles, and the entire Disney afternoon, plus, more recently, Invincible, Chainsaw Man, and Arcane. Of course, if I didn't mention your favorite thing, that doesn't necessarily mean that I've not enjoyed it myself. I just couldn't list everything, and I'm sure a ton of my favorite things are currently slipping my mind. But suffice to say, I am a huge geek. I'm not even going to mention all of my favorite bands and musicians because there's a lot, and music doesn't necessarily fall under the geek umbrella of our show. Anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm like you. I love great entertainment, and I'm not afraid to let everyone know about it. I'm not afraid to read comic books in public or to beat everyone at Disney trivia at a bar. I wear what I love as a badge of honor. Actually, now that I mention that, I realize that I am quite literally covered in tattooed badges of honor all over my body. I've got the Juggernaut's Ruby Gem of Sidorak as a belt buckle, the symbol of the star Sapphire over my belly button, Doctor Strange's Eye of Agamotto over my solar plexus, and the sigil of the Immortal Iron Fist across my chest, to name just a few. I'm also a father of 4. And I named all of my children after comic book characters. See if you can guess the origins of the names of my oldest daughter, Logan Lane, my oldest son, Cassidy West, my youngest son, Grayson Wayne, and my youngest daughter, Parker Pride. Did you decipher them all? Or were there too many possibilities for Cassidy? I actually named him after Cassidy from Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon's Preacher, one of my favorite comic book series of all time. Hell, if that's not enough, my adopted kitten is named Battle Cat. What more can I say? I am a true fan. But I'm also a true professional. I've been pitching comic books as a writer since I was 17 years old. My first professional work was a Deadpool short story for Marvel Comics Presents. I went on to create the original series Dead Romeo for DC, work on licensed comic books for Boom Kids, including an ongoing Disney Pixar Toy Story series. I reimagined Evil Ernie for Dynamite. For the short-lived Fangoria comics, I wrote a prequel to the indie horror hit D. Snyder's Strangeland, and more recently, helped Heavy Metal launch their humor magazine, Softwood. In 2016, Image Comics published my first-of-its-kind music album/comic book called Blacklight District 6 Issues One Shot to critical acclaim. Around that same time, my company KRCO is proud to help Four Horsemen Studios to produce the Mythic Legion's art book for their line of incredibly detailed fantasy action figures. And most recently, my ongoing romantic comedy, assassin, soap opera, Guns and Angels, was successfully funded on Kickstarter. Before I was a professional comic book writer, I was a comic book journalist, writing for the Beat's then sister website, The Pulse, run by Jennifer Contino at the time. And as I moved up the ranks of professional comic books, I became a pillar of the convention circuit, hosting tons of Hall A panels, judging cosplay contests, and acting as master of ceremonies for Clutter Magazine's Designer Toy Awards. I was hired out of college by MTV Networks at 19 years old, and I've maintained a steady career in broadcasting as a host, voiceover artist, and music producer ever since. In fact, I am your humble narrator for Discovery Network's long-running hit show, Food Paradise. I'm also an award-winning producer, thank you to working with my very talented brothers on 2 short films, Fool's Day and All That Remains, the later of which was adapted from an unproduced comic book created by myself and Steve Kurth. Additionally, I've made a number of notable appearances on reality TV alongside my famous parents, Dee and Suzette Snider. I was featured prominently on Growing Up Twisted, Celebrity Wife Swap, and performed live for millions on the reality singing competition Rock the Cradle. My band, Dilf USA, had our first bona fide radio hit last year with Countdown to Christmas, and have provided me with my fucking awesome theme song. Thanks, boys! So yeah, you could say that I've worked in and continue to work in every facet of the entertainment business and know a little something about how the sausage gets made. All right, that's enough about me. It's conclusion time. All right, conclusion. As diminishing financial returns have begun to set in, Hollywood keeps asking themselves all the wrong questions. Instead of asking if there's such a thing as superhero fatigue, they should be asking, how long do the fans have to notice that you don't care about what you're making the way that we do before we stop caring too? Why do you care? Why do you care so much? I'm disgusted by the amount of times I've been asked this question in Hollywood, because my inner unshared answer is always the same. Why don't they care more? They think that if we would just care a little less and consume the product they've made for us, that we'd all be happy. But it ain't going to happen. Something's got to give, and it's not going to be us. So Hollywood can either learn to care the way we all already do, and they can cry about it all the way to the bank and make themselves billions and billions of dollars, or they can piss us off and piss it all away. You'd think with that level of stakes, that kind of dough on the line, that eventually they'd get their shit together and make everyone some money. But not so far. Many of us have turned to anime, back issues, foreign films, and indies to try and reclaim some level of the joy we were previously getting from the pinnacles of geek fandoms. But is it really too much to ask that the things we love simply be treated with the respect they deserve? Tolkien trashed, Lucas betrayed, Roddenberry dead and buried. If we do not guard these mythologies for our children and their children, one day we may wake up to find we've become exactly like the people who destroyed them in the first place. We may find that we don't care anymore. And what an awful world that would be to live in. I don't want to live in that world. I love caring about all this stuff. I love being a fan. So I'm not going to give up. I'm going to rage against the dying of the light until the bitter end. Why do we care so much? Because someone needs to. Okay, that's it. That's my show. I love you. Thank you for listening to this. I appreciate you. If you're checking out this show, it's because you're probably a fan just like me, and I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to what I have to say. I'm going to keep showing up here and keep talking about this stuff with meaning and passion and soul week after week, tearing apart this nonsensical reality that they've created where people who know nothing about fandom are constantly talking about fandom. I don't get it. I don't understand how we've let this charade go on as long as we have. But the coolest geek alive is going to stand in defiance of it until we can tear it down and replace it with what we deserve, with what all of the brilliant creators of all of these wonderful mythologies deserve. We deserve better. Anyway, every episode I want to leave you with a recommendation, something awesome that you should check out and geek out over. And today I'm simply going to double down on William Goldman's The Princess Bride. It's my favorite film and my favorite book. If you have seen the movie, I promise you, the book has so much more to offer you. If you've never seen the movie, don't watch it. Go read the book. And then, once you've read the book, go watch it. You will not regret it. It is something that has provided me with endless joy and laughter for my entire life. I grew up watching it, but it holds up. It stands the test of time. It's funny. It's heartfelt. It's action-packed. It's fanciful. Fanciful. You know the word that I'm trying to get at. It's just wonderful. It's a wonderful addition to anybody's life. I can't recommend The Princess Bride enough. Next week, we're going to be talking about Phase 1 of the recently rebooted James Gunn-led DC Cinematic Universe, and I'm really excited to get into that conversation with you. I hope you'll join me. In the meantime, follow DILF USA on Spotify. Back my hysterically blasphemous comedy comic book King of Kings on Kickstarter. And follow me, Jesse Blaze Snider, the coolest geek alive, on Twitter. See you next time. Bye-bye.
It's gonna be freaking awesome. Talking some shit. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Living your shit. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Food in our mouth. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Get in the mouth. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Tell all your friends. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Call out our test. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Raising the bar. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Straight to the stars. It's gonna be freaking awesome. It's coming soon. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Passing the moon. It's gonna be freaking awesome. On with the show. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Ready, set, go. It's going to be freaking awesome. Freaking awesome. It's going to be freaking awesome. Just wait. You'll see. You'll all see.
You've been listening to Coolest Geek Alive with me, your host, Jesse Blaze Snider. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more excellent geek culture content. Thanks for listening.